Lee Yoon-Hee is at a bar with 40 other classmates and professors. The class had just finished their final internship and are now celebrating. Kim Hyung, a close friend of Yoon-Hee, spots her abruptly leaving the party without telling anyone. Kim knew something was off and offered to walk her home. The two walked to her apartment just under a mile away from the bar. Kim sees her lights flicker on and heads home himself. At 2:58 AM, shortly after she arrives home, Yoon-Hee's computer flickers to life. Searches of sex and 112, the emergency number for police in South Korea, appears on her computer. Minutes later, at 3:01 AM, the computer's digital trail went cold. Since then, Lee Yoon-Hee was never seen again. Lee Yoon-Hee is an undergraduate who studies at John Burke National University of Veterinary and Medicine. She's only one semester away from graduating and is preparing for her final exams. To maintain financial stability while studying, Yoon-Hee tutors children in her spare time. One night on June 2nd, Yoon-Hee was walking home after a tutoring session when two men on motorbikes sped past her and snatched her handbag. Inside the handbag were everyday items, her wallet, keys, notebooks, and most importantly, her phone. On June 5th, Yoon-Hee and her fellow classmates completed their final internship of the semester, a huge achievement for the class. The students decide to celebrate and plan to go out for drinks that evening, even inviting their professors. The night started in a karaoke bar and everything was going smoothly. A video recorded shows Yoon-Hee, who appears to be enjoying the party. After the karaoke, the group then went to a nearby pub for a final round of drinks. At around 2:30, Yoon-Hee was seen leaving the bar after using the bathroom. She appeared to be scared and left without saying goodbye to anyone. One of her classmates and close friends, Kim Hyung, noticed her quick exit and followed after her. The two reportedly shared a close friendship, and Yoon-Hee felt comfortable enough to confide in him that someone had followed her to the bathroom, though she did not provide any further details. Concerned for her, Kim walked Yoon-Hee home since she lived alone in a studio apartment. According to Kim, he would usually accompany Yoon directly to her doorstep, but this time they reached a dark alley and Yoon stopped and decided to walk the rest of the way home. He then walked back to the university, and from there, he saw the lights on her apartment flicker on. Knowing she made it home safely, he walked back to his own apartment. On June 6th, nobody had heard from Yoon-Hee. Many friends assumed she was simply busy. After all, June 6th was a holiday in South Korea, and Yoon-Hee still had no phone to contact friends. When June 7th went by and Yoon-Hee didn't show up for her classes, her friends suspected something was up. It was unusual for Yoon-Hee to miss all her classes that day, as she was known for working really hard and never missing a class before. It was reported her friend Kim and Minji went to her apartment and knocked on her door, but on each occasion, after knocking on the door, no one answered. However, the next day, on June 8th, when Yoon-Hee failed to turn up to plans she had made with her friends, 4 of her friends, including Kim and Minji, went to her apartment and knocked on her door again. They were greeted, but not by Yoon-Hee, rather her desperate dogs barking for help. They called Yoon-Hee's sister, who told them that she hadn't contacted her family or returned to her hometown. That's when the group of friends decided to call the police. When the police got the door open, her room was in a mess and her dogs were laying on the floor, starving. The room appeared to have been abandoned for several days. Police found a dried bouquet of flowers that had been hanging on the wall, lying on the floor. They also found her backpack, which she had taken to the party that night, indicating she did indeed return home on June 6th. Despite the state of the apartment, the Korean police did not suspect foul play. Having no signs of a forced entry, the police completely dismissed the report, assuming that Yoon-Hee would return home in a few days. In 2006, the Korean police had a poor reputation for their investigative efforts, and they certainly failed Yoon-Hee on this occasion. Her 4 classmates found the police unuseful, so they took matters into their own hands, contacting Yoon's family to confirm if she was with them. They knew it was very unlike Yoon-Hee to abandon her dogs without food or water. After all, she aspires to become a veterinarian. Her friends noted that she recently expressed concerns about being followed, which made the lack of proper investigation even more concerning. Despite these red flags, the police still seemed to dismiss the urgency of the situation, leaving her friends and family increasingly worried. Minji and one friend decided to file a missing persons report at the police station, while Kim and another friend stayed at the apartment to wait for her family to arrive. While they were waiting for the family to arrive at the apartment, Kim and the friend would make a crucial mistake. They decided to clean her apartment up, unintentionally erasing evidence. It's important to note that they did not do this out of malicious intent. The police didn't consider the room as a crime scene, so the friends cleaned the apartment out of respect to avoid embarrassing Yoon-Hee's family before they arrived. While Yoon-Hee's family was at her apartment, they noticed 2 things that were missing: a hammer and a tea table. When the police finally launched an investigation, they discovered Yoon-Hee's computer active on the day she went missing from 2:59 AM to 3:02 AM, with concerning searches containing 112 and SA. At 4:21 AM, almost an hour and a half later, the computer was turned off by someone. No one knows if it was Yoon-Hee or someone else who turned off the computer, but Yoon-Hee did have a habit of keeping her computer running, sometimes all day, even if she didn't use it. This habit was confirmed by the computer expert going through the computer logs, so the chances were somebody else, for whatever reason, manually turned off the computer. On the night of June 10th, a motel 1 hour away from her apartment logged in to her music media account. It's not known if it was Yoon-Hee that accessed the internet, or if it was accessed by someone else who knew her personal information. When police checked the establishment's CCTV footage for anyone suspicious, no suspects could be narrowed down. The next day, on June 11th, a student on campus found Yoon-Hee's notebook next to a computer in the veterinary surgery room. The notebook had been there for around a week, but nobody paid any attention to it until after they learned that Yoon-Hee was missing. 2 days later, on June 13th, Yoon-Hee's father discovered the missing tea table hidden in a narrow gap between a pile of waste furniture. When he investigated closer, he realised all 4 legs of the table seemed to be removed by the screws, meaning someone took the time to manually deconstruct the table. Who or why, we do not know. Days after Yoon-Hee went missing, police were able to ping her stolen cell phone at the Samsung Hall of Chungbuk National University. This evidence added to the suspicion that the culprit was most likely a student at Chungbuk National University. As the investigation continued, friends and family began to lose hope and questioned if Lee Yoon-Hee was even alive. People speculated she was killed, more specifically, incinerated. It was discovered that every week an agency was sent out to the university campus to collect all animal carcasses used during dissection class, so that the carcass can be incinerated. The agency on average collected 40 kilograms of animal remains. However, on June 6th, it was reported they had collected 110 kilograms, almost 3 times the usual amount. The agency has said, due to company policy, all materials were sealed in containers. They were not allowed to look at what was inside, and everything in the container went straight into the incinerator. This leaves us with the sole question: why was the weight of the collection on June 6th 70 kilograms over the normal weight? The weight was only ever this high when a large animal, like a cow, was sent out. But according to the university records, no cows or large animals were ever put through the incinerator during that period of time. The police kept digging for more information, and it was discovered that Yoon-Hee's computer was turned on 2 days after she disappeared. On June 8th at 2:15 p.m, someone snuck inside her apartment and wiped all the records and social media chat logs from June 4th to June 8th. This meant whoever did it knew the door passcode of her room, as there was no evidence of a forced entry. The police formed a task force dedicated to Yoon's disappearance and checked the alibis of all 40 people who attended the graduation on June 5th. 22 people, including Kim, took polygraph tests and all of them passed. There seemed to be no flaws with any of their alibis. Although Kim passed the polygraph test, the police still suspected Kim as the main culprit. When Kim was investigated, his story went along the lines of, on June 6th at 2:30 a.m, the celebration came to an end. I would usually accompany Yoon directly to her doorstep, but this time we reached a dark alley and Yoon stopped and decided to walk the rest of the way home. I walked back to the university and from outside saw the lights on her apartment room and hallway turn on, and went back to my own apartment afterwards, knowing Yoon was safe. When researching deeper, it was also reported Kim had a crush on Yoon-Hee. Some people believed he was obsessed over her, gathering a collection of her hair clippings and recording her actions in his journal. On the other hand, there were other claims that their affection was mutual. Yoon-Hee had Kim in her emergency contacts and the pair seemed to be very close friends, going back before the university days. The police searched his house, the clothes he wore that night, and his car, but found nothing strange. However, what was strange was the fact that Kim knew Yoon-Hee's passcode for her door, but decided not to open it on June 7th when he visited her room for the first time. Or when the 4 friends called the police to open the door, why didn't Kim open the door himself? Perhaps Kim was attempting to cover up evidence he had left in the room. Given his easy access to the apartment, this would explain the lack of a forced entry. As well as this, Kim was one of the 2 people who supposedly, mistakenly, cleaned up the crime scene. With full access to her room, Kim likely had access to her computer as well, which would explain the deleted history and activity on her accounts. Kim mentioned during a questioning, "At the bar, Yoon-Hee asked me if I followed her to the bathroom after coming back from it. I said no, I was sitting here with the rest of the group. After coming back, she looked really uncomfortable and asked me to switch seats with her, to which I obliged. After 3 or 4 minutes, she got out of her seat and left without saying goodbye to anyone. I walked her to her apartment and saw her going inside, and then went to my place. Her family, to this day, suspect Kim as the prime suspect, but since there is no concrete evidence other than suspicions, no arrests were made. The next suspect was a professor. Though he remains unidentified, he was close enough to Yoon-Hee to give her private lessons and was seated next to her at the party. If we go back to Kim's statement, Yoon-Hee asked Kim to switch seats with her. If this was true, the professor being the only person sitting next to Yoon-Hee must have done something to make her uncomfortable. Some people believe that the professor used his position of power to essay Yoon-Hee and later made her disappear through the waste removal agency. The professor's statements were suspicious as his stories were inconsistent. He initially claimed that he arrived home at 2 AM, but changed his statement to 2:30 AM, which would have strengthened his alibi. Although the police investigated these claims, they didn't gather much information from the professor as they focused on investigating Kim. Investigators are still actively working on Lee Yoon-Hee's case, and to this day, this case remains a mystery. Thanks for watching till the end, and if you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. These videos take days, sometimes even weeks to make, and if you'd like to support me, check out my Patreon, where I'll be posting behind the scenes content. Lastly, comment down below what you think happened to Lee Yoon-Hee, and I'll give them a read.